Here's something the whiskey industry doesn't want you to know. Some of the bottles the expert distillers and obsessive collectors reach for on a Tuesday night, not for a special occasion, just because they want a great glass of whiskey, cost under €75. Not hundreds, not thousands, €75 or less. Today, we're discovering 10 Scotch whiskies that whiskey lovers go back to again and again. Not because they can't afford anything better, because these bottles are genuinely, stubbornly excellent. Accessibility doesn't mean ordinary. And by the end of this video, you'll have a list worth keeping. Let's go. Dalwhinnie 15, the quiet one that always delivers. Dalwhinnie sits at the highest elevation of any distillery in Scotland. It's cold, remote, and exposed to weather that would make most people consider their life choices. And somehow, that brutal environment produces one of the gentlest, most accessible single malts on the market. The Dalwhinnie 15 opens with heather and honey, not in the fake marketing speak way, but in a way that's immediately recognizable and warm. On the palate, heather honey sweetness, vanilla and citrus fruit, followed by a finish that surprises you. It starts sweet, then shifts, rounding out with a soft warmth, a touch of smoke, and malts that linger longer than the price tag suggests it should. This is the whiskey you hand someone who says they don't like Scotch. Why people go back to it? It's reliable, it's elegant, and it punches well above its price. Next, a whiskey that comes from an island with more weather than people and has one of the most explosive finishes in the entire category. Talisker 10, the one that bites back. Talisker has been distilled on the Isle of Skye since 1830. That's almost 200 years of making whiskey on a rugged island coastline buried by the North Atlantic. And you can taste every single one of those years in the glass. The Talisker 10 is not a gentle whiskey. The nose hits you with sea salt and coastal smokiness that's more restrained than Islay, but most unmistakably there. Then the palate arrives. Citrus, dried fruit, maritime brine, and then the pepper. Black pepper, building steadily on the finish until it becomes a full warming explosion that coats the back of your throat and refuses to leave. Robert Louis Stevenson famously called Talisker the king of drinks. That's a bold statement, but standing in front of a glass on the 10 on a cold evening, it's hard to argue. Why people go back? That finish. Nobody forgets the Talisker finish. And for under €50, nothing else delivers this level of drama. From the drama of Skye to the understated brilliance of the Northern Highlands, the next bottle is one of the best kept secrets in Scotch. Clynelish 14, the distillery everyone overlooks until they try it. Most of Clynelish production disappears into blends, including the Johnny Walker Gold label. The distillery doesn't get much attention as a standalone. That's a genuine shame because Clynelish 14 is quietly one of the most interesting bottles at this price point. What makes it unusual is its texture. When you add water, a waxy quality emerges, almost like candle wax or beeswax. That's unlike anything else in Scottish whiskey. It's a quality that divides people on the first time they encounter it, but whiskey lovers consistently rank it amongst the things they come back to most. The nose offers dried flowers, a coastal saltiness, and brown sugar. The palate is creamy and maritime, with a long, dry, faintly bitter finish that stays with you. It sits closer to an island whiskey style than you'd expect from a mainland Highland distillery. Why people go back? The waxy texture is unique and utterly compelling. Once you know what to look for, it becomes almost addictive. Staying on the island, but now we cross to Islay, to a distillery that proves the island isn't only about smoke. Bunnahabhain 12, Islay without the peat salt. Tell someone you love Islay whiskey and they'll assume you drink smoke by the glass. Bunnahabhain exists to complicate that assumption. Founded in 1881 on Islay's northern shore, accessible only by boat until the 1960s, Bunnahabhain produces a largely unpeated single malt that stands apart from its neighbors. This is Islay whiskey built on maritime character rather than phenolic smoke. Nutty, rich and faintly salty, with a warmth that comes from careful sherry cask maturation rather than burning peat. The 12-year-old opens with roasted grains and a light coastal freshness. On the palate, nuts, dried fruits, honey, a subtle saltiness that ties it all together. It's non-chill filtered and it contains no added color. What you see and what you taste is exactly what the cask gives. For anyone who's been told they won't like Islay whiskey because they don't like smoke, this is the bottle to prove them wrong. Why people go back? It's complex, it's honest, and it constantly surprises. The nutty coastal combination is rare, and it's deeply satisfying. Now, we leave the islands behind us and head for Campbelltown, to a region with a dramatic history and exactly 3 working distilleries at the moment. One of them has become a legend. Springbank 10, the obsessive everyday bottle. Springbank is the kind of distillery that makes whiskey purists emotional. It's one of the last remaining distilleries in Scotland that does everything. Malting, distilling, maturing and bottling entirely on one site. It's family owned, it's stubbornly independent, and it's making 3 completely different whiskey styles from the same set of stills. The Springbank 10 is distilled 2.5 times, a genuinely unusual process where parts of the spirit is distilled twice and a part of the spirit is distilled 3 times, producing a complexity that most distilleries simply can't replicate. Matured in a combination of bourbon and sherry casks, it delivers fruit, vanilla, malt on the nose, followed by a palate of oak, nutmeg, cinnamon and a sweetness on the finish that lingers long after the glass is empty. So, why people go back? Springbank has one of the most loyal followings in whiskey, and once you've tasted why, the loyalty makes complete sense. From Campbelltown's traditions to Speyside's sweet elegance. The next bottle is one of the most recognizable names in the world for a very good reason. The Glenlivet Founders Reserve, the gateway that earns its place. It's easy to dismiss Glenlivet as an obvious choice. It's the one in every supermarket, the one people buy when they don't know what else to get. That dismissal is unfair. The Glenlivet was the first distillery to take out a license under Scotland's 1823 Excise Act, effectively launching the modern era of legal Scotch whisky production. The Founders Reserve carries that heritage into a bottle that's smooth, floral, immediately accessible, with tones of pear, apple, vanilla and caramel with a light and easy finish. Is it the most complex whiskey on the list? No, it's not. Is it brilliantly crafted for what it is? It is. It's approachable, genuinely enjoyable, it's single malt at a fair price. So why do people go back? Reliability and balance. Sometimes you want a whiskey that asks nothing of you, and the Founders Reserve delivers that with grace. If the Glenlivet is the welcoming entrance to Speyside, the next distillery is the house at the end of the road every serious whiskey lover ends up eventually. Ardbeg 10, the peat monster with a cult following. There are whiskies people like, and there are whiskies people love. And then there are whiskies people organize their lives around. Ardbeg 10 belongs to that last category. Distilled on Islay's southern shore, Ardbeg produces some of the most intensely peated whiskies in the world. The 10-year-old is the entry point and it's not subtle. Peat smoke and citrus hit the nose first. Then the palate opens into something that shouldn't make sense. Smoke? Yes, but also a sweet maltiness underneath. Tar and iodine. And a coastal brininess that pulls everything together. The finish is long, smoky and complex, evolving for minutes after the last sip. For those who love peat, Ardbeg 10 is the benchmark. For those who haven't tried peat yet, this is the honest, uncompromising version. If you like it, you find your people. So why do people go back? The complexity at this price point is simply unmatched. Every sip reveals something different. So, pulling back from the intensity, the next whiskey is from the Highlands, and it's the one that honey lovers never stop talking about. Aberfeldy 12, the honey dram. Aberfeldy sits in the Perthshire Highlands, close to the River Tay, and it has been producing what it calls the golden dram since 1898. The comparison to honey is not a marketing invention. It's genuinely the first thing your nose finds, and the last thing your palate will remember. The 12-year-old delivers silky honey, vanilla, toffee and soft fruit. It's a combination that's warm and it's inviting without being cloying. The maturation in quality oak casks is evident in a richness that belies the accessible price. Over 200 gold medals in international competitions back up what drinkers have known for years. And if you want to go further, the Aberfeldy 16, matured in Madeira casks, was named best in category at the 2025 San Francisco World Spirits Competition. The 12 is the gateway, the 16 is where it gets serious. So, why do people go back? This is one of the most flattering whiskies in Scotland. Hard to dislike, easy to love, and always honest for this price. So next, a Speyside classic with a clever trick up the sleeve. 2 casks, 12 years, one remarkably balancing result. The Balvenie Double Wood 12. the one everyone should own. The Balvenie is one of the last distilleries in Scotland with its own cooperage. Craftsmen who build and repair casks on site. That relationship with wood is not incidental, it defines the whisky. The double wood starts in American oak ex-bourbon casks for 12 years. Then, it moves into Oloroso sherry cask for a finishing period. The two casks don't fight each other, they cooperate. Vanilla and soft fruit from the bourbon barrels, dried fruit from a warming spice, vanilla and soft fruit from the bourbon barrels, dried fruit and warming spice from the sherry. The result is a whiskey with a remarkable balance. Sweet without being simple, complex without being too demanding. The Balvenie Double Wood is the bottle that appears on more desert island whiskey lists than almost anything else at this point, because this is the bottle that works in any mood, any season, any company. So, why do people go back? Perfect balance is harder to achieve than it looks. And finally, a bottle from Islay that takes everything you think you know about the island and turns it upside down. Bruichladdich, the one that does things a little bit differently. Bruichladdich is the island distillery that refuses to follow Islay's rules. No peat, no smoke, no medicinal assault. Instead, 100% Scottish barley, 50% ABV, no chill filtration, no added color, and a commitment to transparency that's rare in the industry. Every bottle carries a code that lets you trace the exact barley, casks, and production details reused. The clynelish is deliberately not a recipe set in stone. Each batch is assembled by hand by head distiller Adam Hannett, and each one is subtly different, shaped by the barley variety of that year and the specific cask available. The result is floral, fruity, and genuinely alive. Think of citrus, fresh grains, vanilla, and a light coastal salinity with a structure that rewards attention without demanding effort. This is Islay whiskey for people who think they don't like Islay whiskey. And for people who do, it's the reminder that the island contains multitudes. So, why people go back? The transparency, the quality, and the fact that every bottle is slightly different makes it endlessly interesting. So, here you have it, 10 bottles, 10 reasons to spend less and enjoy more. From the high-altitude elegance of Dalwhinnie to the uncompromising fires of Ardbeg, from Campbelltown's stubborn tradition to Bruichladdich quiet revolution. The best affordable Scotch whiskies cover more ground than most people realize. And here's the honest truth. This list barely scratches the surface. There are dozens of bottles that deserve to be on it. Expressions that whiskey lovers swear by. Regional gems that never get enough attention. And distilleries quietly making exceptional whiskies without the marketing budget of the big names. This is a starting point, not a final word. So, in the next video, we're tackling something that even the most experienced whiskey drinkers are surprised by. 5 reasons why the age of a whiskey doesn't matter as much as you think. Because that 18-year-old label might be costing you money, and that 10-year-old bottle might be everything you've been looking for. Don't miss it.